Okay, good morning. This is Simon with Trade and Perform Coaching. It is Tuesday morning. The month is winding down quickly, the 24th. So, a couple of things I want to handle really quickly. So, I made an adjustment um, to the Trader Assist, the one I posted out yesterday. I had to adjust it back to the third channel. So, I want to show where it was firing, how it would have fired yesterday. So, the problem is I had it firing too far up in the channel and we lost momentum in the process of getting that done. So with the adjustment from yesterday, these were the trades if you ran it from the open. So now it requires, if it fires, it has to fire at or beyond the blue channel for the long and the orange channel for the short. So that being said, if you ran it from the open, that is trade one. So obviously it's a stop or you scaled right out of it. This is trade two right here, obviously paid. This is trade three. It survives the 30-point stop to go profitable. This is trade four. You can see it fixed the trade effectively, right? Trade five, that survives the 30-point stop. Again, that did not survive getting to all the extensions. And the point of the trader or the trader assist, right, is you have to be able to read the market as it's moving along. Like that's a really important component, right? I cannot fix that part, like where we go vertical in here. But even if you look at it and you took the trades with the squares on it outside the channel, I'm going to keep reiterating. That's why this is important, that you take those trades. But the other part that we need to discuss later today, and I'll discuss building an account because some people are still not seeing that, right? I still see people flipping with, well, if I'm going to make $1,000, I want to I want to keep trading. But if I'm going to make 300 and it's going to go back to zero, I don't want to keep trading, right? Your ability to actually see what the market's doing, this ended up being the last trend alongside, and this is the short version of this, right? So again, much the same, it has to fire off that third channel. So if you look, I'm going to go through the trades from yesterday, and what we will do is tie it to the 60-minute volume and go from there. So you'll see in the morning, these are the trades that it took on the short side. So I'll start right there at 8:45. So trade one, again, you had to close that out or it only got one scale and stopped you out. I think in this case it went 20, so break even. Trade two got all its scales. Trade three got all its scales. Again, you'll see they're firing off that third channel, right? Here's where it was a bit challenging, right? This white line is where I said, hey, um, this is where we flip short, right? Where that white line is. And if you're not aggressive on the, so I want to discuss this. Everyone can hear me, right? There's no issue. So if you look at this from uh, if you look at this from the way I want to execute the process, right? See how none of the bars that came on the turn were had a square on it? Everyone sees that, right? Okay, so this part's important. This is where you'll have to adapt because I can't make the trader assist do everything it doesn't think, right? So for me, what I'm doing is I'm going, hey, I'm under that value area. That value area was this right here, right? We got up here, and I'm underneath this, starting right here. I'm underneath this value area. So let me make sure I have the right 25,067.50. So restore short, short. There it is. Okay. From where that red line is being drawn, but it's really towards 930 that red line is set up. Okay. Your entries, in my opinion, your best entries are this, this, and this. And that's right when we get underneath. That's when you have the maximum ability to get paid. There's no other way to describe that. That's your best point in time. Hold on a second. I don't know why this is acting funny, but I'm going to fix it. There we go. That early part of getting underneath, that value area from the prior hour, or above that value area from that prior hour. That little window right there, that window lasted, well, really from 9:30, you had 10 minutes, right? Sometimes it's 30 minutes, but it's a pretty small window to grab that trade, right? So the other thing you have to be aware of in this process, if you're going to short, right, is that we've come down, right, from 25,048 to 24,658. Now I know we've been going down a lot in the market, right? I know that we've been getting rollovers, right? But when you come in yesterday, if you look at yesterday and you look at this chart, this is a prior day's low right here. And we came right to it. Like that's, you can call it a double bottom. We pierced the low. But when we hit this low, right, you've got to know in your head, hey, guys are going to respond to this, right? Guys are, traders are going to respond. They're going to go, hey, that's a retest double bottom from last Friday, right? Now, we don't know where it's going to go from there, right? But when you combine the fact that we went from 25,040 to 24,680, right? That's almost 400 points. Not quite, but it's 300 and change. And it was all done very quickly in a straight line, right? You have to make the pivot and go, we're probably going to bounce from there, right? And what I find is as I'm trying to help people trade, right? There's two ways to trade. You can either trade with momentum, which is what we're trying to do right over here, right? When we rolled down yesterday, right? And we got underneath this value area right here, you were trying to trade with momentum, okay? Because if not, you're trying to trade with balance, meaning you want to try to get the short up here or the long down here. Both strategies are viable and both strategies require a specific way to enter, like for example, inverse supernova, and you have to have some kind of knowledge of what each trade looks like on each side of that level, right? Because our trader isn't going to flip long until right over here, right? And in this case, the hourly closed above the last value, so you can say I'm going to be aggressive there, and it's two stages. So Joyce was expressing to me that she had a little bit of confusion, so I'm going to explain this. Um, I'm going to try to explain this one more time, how I see it, okay? When I see us get below, so I'm going to start with the short because it was easier, right? When I see us push up 1, 2, I know if I get underneath here and I set up short, that's the first place my short can set up to roll to the downside. The second place, the place where we will accelerate, will be underneath the low of this bar. And then the third one, see when we get this down bar, if we're going to swing, the swing will accelerate underneath that down bar. Those are the three stages. And I'm trying to get in as early as possible, right, with some kind of confirmation. The confirmation is that I'm underneath the value area, right? So when I get to this bar, right, the first thing I'm going to say is when this bar closes, I have to trade above here, right? You can see that we didn't. It just didn't set up above 24,784. But stage two is up here, okay? If you look as that trade progresses, for me, this is still important. It's still a level. But then the next level becomes this and this level right here. So next I have to get above 24,797.50, right? I'm still looking for the reversal because I had the down bar and I've come into support. The third one, right? So this got tricky because it went into balance, right? So as I'm moving along, I'm just moving these lines along until I finally get it to set up the way I want it to set up for the upward rotation. So let's just say from this point on, right? From here on, I'm going to go as long as I'm above 24,783, and then I'm going to move it over here to 734. I'm looking for the longs and then finally over here, right? If I go to my chart, I'm going to look for the long side trade. These are shorts, these are longs. Okay, so it's approximately here that I'm looking for the long, right? So these are all the areas where I'm drawing from the top of value or the prior bar's high, right? So now what I want it to do is once I get above those highs, I want the square to set up long. I want two things to happen, right? I want the square to set up long off the fourth channel. Now you'll notice you don't have to be above the high, right? And everyone seems to have forgotten it a little bit. So I'm going to try and see if I can help remind people, right? When you get the when you get the trade off the fourth channel with a blue square, you have very good odds that that trade will work, right? That is not changed. Nothing about the old process has gone away. You could get rid of all these value areas and go, I'm going to trade squares. I'm going to scalp the squares up, right? And on most days, especially if it's on the turn bar, not 100%, but a lot, right? If you just trade those squares, okay, if you just trade those squares on the turn, right, on the turn, you are going to do okay. If you'll back them up to the third channel, odds are you're going to do better, right? There'll be times when they just simply don't set up. So then a good question to ask is, well, what's the point of the value area, right? Why am I paying attention to that at all if I'm just looking for the squares? And the answer is because above the value area and above the high of the bar, I know I can get an extension. And it makes the understanding for me, right? It makes the understanding for me that I could really accelerate that trade. Now, yesterday, that didn't work very well. It worked okay, but not great, right? I'm going to say it again. It worked okay, but not great. Okay. So how do I adapt? So I'm going to show you how I adapt, and I'm going to show you where the problems are with the trader. So I'm going to go to Friday morning. If you remember on Friday morning, I was pretty Johnny on the spot and said, we are probably going up first thing in the morning if we clear. And I'm going to show you what it was. This is Friday morning. This is the open. And I pretty much, and you can go back because I wrote it down. Said if we get above 24,761, 25, right, we are probably going higher, right? So here's where the problem is with the Trader Assist. I'm going to show you. Let's get over there. Okay. So here's all the trades, right? Go back over here. There's my white line, right? So here's all the trades that registered on the fourth channel. Just this trade right here, right? Now, anyone in the room could come back and go, but Simon, I see this blue dot up work, this blue square up work, these blue squares up work. Yeah, when we rip momentum, right, all of that works, right? But if you look and you pulled it back with the adjustment I made, right, and you look out the fourth channel, we're above this key level. We also got above the high of the bar. 1, 2 is a stop right there, right? 3, 4 is a stop. 5. Now, within all that, right? Within all that, there's two things that happened. If you did not let your original trades run, or you brought your stop up quickly, you only made a few points here. This is profitable, okay? You only made a few points here. You lost here. You made a few points here. You lost here. You made a few points here. What's happening is a few people, not a lot, but a few people in the room are getting so tight on making money that they're not letting their process work, number one. And when you say, okay, if you come back to me and say, but Simon, it didn't hit the targets, it only went 10 points or only went 15 points. That's your job to figure out whether you still want to keep taking the trades or not, or whether you want to let it extend. What I know, right? What I know that's very, very important is you've got to let at least part of your trailer run because it'll offset a lot of, if you have losses, it'll offset a lot of losses. Or you have to be able to determine when you don't want a trade, right? That's a harder skill. For me, if I run through this day and I just let this trade go, right, through the course of the day, and this is before we flip to looking for any shorts, right? I know this comes out profitable if I just run this. But I also know from looking at where the squares are, right? I would have wanted a square right here. Didn't get it. Would have wanted one here. That's white bar stuffed, right? I will add that to a version of the trader because there's some people who want it, but it doesn't always work. Okay, any more than green square stuffed up above, no more than that works. Like that's an example right there. But I do know that if I keep taking the trades with the squares on them, right? I want to show you this because some people, it hasn't registered yet. And I can line up either location or I can line up momentum. Doesn't matter which one, right? If I went through this course of this day and I said, I want to take the squares up, particularly, right, if it's in supernova, right? But I want to take the squares up and the squares stuff, especially once it's gone supernova, right? I'm going to make quite a bit of money, right? And that's because, and I've asked anyone who can prove to me that it doesn't work to please come back to me and show me. I know there's days when it stops. I'm not stupid, right? But when I go through any of these charts, right, all this is showing is on the turn, right? All this is showing is on the turn. But I know in general, and particularly, again, I'm going to state it again, when I'm in supernova, right? So the trader assist will not take this because I can't get people to distinguish when it should and shouldn't, right? So I know when I'm on the outside edge, right? If I take a square, most of the time, not all the time, I'm going to have a very good chance of getting to some type of profitability. That should be the core of your decision making if you can't figure out the rest of your trading. But there's another second part that's very, very important. Okay. And this seems to be a big struggle, and I don't understand why because it was pretty intuitive for me, and I'm struggling with understanding why. Right. What I want to do is build an account and start like building the best trades that I have if I'm building an account. Let's say I start today, right? So I started with an account. Um, I'm not even gonna say who it's with Tradeify. I had one account that I didn't have, so I bought a $50,000 account. And I'm going to see if I can show y'all how I would grow it, right? Trading between 6 and 9 micros in the account. Okay, so all I'm trying to show, right? All I'm trying to show with that account is as long as I put $200 or $300 a day, right? That all I'm trying to do is get that account to $3,000 or $4,000. Why? Because then I can trade 10 micros or 20 micros once I get it there. And then I can just keep concentrating on my best trade, right? I can keep concentrating on my best trade, but you should be able to answer. Like I should be able to go to Ed and go, Ed, what's your absolute best, everything comes together trade? And he should be able to answer it. Nate should be able to answer it. Randy should be able to answer it. And there's only really, besides myself, one person who can actually answer that in this room 100% of the time. And that is Dan up in Canada, right? Dan is very straightforward. It's got to go supernova, break a swing is his term, right? It's got to break a swing, and then when it breaks a swing, it needs 3 bars back, and then it needs an engulfing bar or an algo. Now, he varies off of that. I know he does every once in a while, right? He has to adapt because nothing works symmetrically in the market perfectly, okay? But enough does that he gets paid, right? He wants 3 bars back in a row, and then he wants the engulfing bar. And then he adopts. He goes, oh, the first bar wasn't engulfing. I'll take the second one with a tight stop. Does he do it in a way that's easily teachable? No, but he knows what his best trades look like, right? I know what my best trades look like. And I know my best trades are coming to above value, above a prior value area, and they rip. Okay? Above a value area, and they rip. Okay? So at any rate, look for the bars with the squares, guys. It makes your job super easy. If you're taking them in the middle of the channel, you're going to have to adapt a little bit, right? And be a pretty good trader to come in and out of them, right? If you're not, like there's someone in this room who actually only likes the squares when they come in the middle of the channel, both ways, right? He only likes those. You want to know why he likes those? Because they rip when he gets them, right? He knows that those are the bars instead of picking off down here. He knows when he gets them in the middle of the channel, like he's like, hey, I'm good to go. I know if I get that square in the middle of the channel, it is very likely that it is going to rip quick, right? He's not going to have to wait around for everything to line up, right? But he also is willing to come out of the trade pretty quickly, right? And if he'll just line those ripping algos up with the value areas, he'll have a pretty good idea of which way the market's going to go. And that's something that some people are having a hard time integrating. So I'm going to go back for a second, right? But let me slow down for a second and be very, very clear. Okay. There's three elements that are important that people are messing up on. Decide how you're going to build your account. Actually put it on paper and write it down, right? Put it on paper, write it down. Number one. Okay. Number two part that's very, very important. Whatever your number is, once you hit it, stop trying to build your whole account in one day. This is a mentally exhausting pursuit, right? Pace yourself, right? It doesn't have to be done the first half hour, doesn't even have to be done in the first 2 hours, right? But pace yourself and be able to write, I'm looking for this. So for me, for example, today, right? When we got underneath here, see this morning, right there, see that? I'm up, I'm right over here, right? And I said, I bet that bar goes lower. It's all the way at the bottom of the channel. Why did I say that? Because I know those first squares down underneath tend to rip. Now this got into funny session right here. Okay. So I shorted this, did not hold it because I did not think we were going to roll to the downside. Why did I not think that? Because it's coming right back against the breakout of this bar. So it's kind of neutralizes, right? What this tells me is that there's sellers up here, there's buyers down here, and I'm in between and it's hard to tell which rip. But I got paid here. But before I left, I was on the phone. I shorted this right here. I didn't short here because I was talking to Bill. I shorted this right here. And then luckily my wife called me, so I covered it. So I'm up, not a bajillion, but I'm up a little bit this morning, right? The market has gone from a momentum market where we were nailing the bottoms to we are balancing to the edges. So now, guys, right? What's working better is if you're shorting the edges up here and you're buying the bottoms. Now, one way to do that to adapt, if you need to, is switch off to a 30-minute chart because the value areas will show up earlier, but only works at the edges. Okay? That only works at the edges. For me, okay? The overwhelming feedback I'm getting from the entire room, the overwhelming feedback I'm getting from the entire room when I'm talking to people is that it is easier for people to understand which way the market's going to go based on the hourly value area. So I'm not going to switch off of that, right? I've had multiple people tell me this is easier. I have a clearer understanding of why we're going up or why we're going down, right? You have to make it easy on yourself to make money, okay? If you can't, so for me, if someone comes to me this morning, right, and says, Simon, how are you going to make money today? I'm going to pull up this little chart right here. First, I'm going to go to ES, right? And I'm going to tell them that I'm looking for this square, and this square at the edges or in the direction if we break down and start trending, right? This square, right? This square. Why? It's working. And it's not just working in a few places. Right here, go back. Do it contra. Do it contra when we're trending down. So I'm pretty sure this was a down day. It was Thursday, right? Long, 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 long. I'm not going to count that one, right? Stop. Oh, this goes into midnight, right? I've been saying it over and over. ES has been working great. I don't want to shift the trades that I'm pointing out in the room, but go look. Long, stopped, long, excuse me, short, short, long, short, right? I'm not even trying, right? Either scalped or stopped, long. And some of these trades have been significant. If you shorted this, stopped, right? Short. It's been really great on ES. We have nice fat wide ranges. If you're having a hard time making money in NQ or it's moving too fast for you, pop over to the ES. It worked here. It's not only just this. You need a smaller stop? Go to a 6 tick. I like the 8 tick, right? If you want it faster, go to a 6 tick, right? So go look what you had the same thing. Here's Friday, okay? You'll see the chart gets busier, so you have to make more decisions, right? But if you look at it, it goes on the turn. Let me make sure I don't miss any. Stop. This is the problem with the 6 when it's moving fast. Stop, paid, paid. If you took this all the way down here, you had to scalp out of it, right? Paid, scalped or stopped, scalped or stopped, paid, paid, scalped, stopped, right? See, it's getting pounded pretty good there. Second bar up, but definitely paid, paid. I give it enough room to get behind there by 1 bar, so however you want to do it, right? Again, the 8 tick is a lot bit less busy, okay? But if you need a smaller bar, that's fine. Just realize you're going to have to negotiate in and out of it. I'm not going to do a 6 tick right now because the market's moving. If it gets really slow, I'll flip back to a 6 tick. I'm using the 8 tick, okay? This market is clearly paying people, but you have to get on process and you have to get into the habit of getting paid. Okay. And when you get paid, you can't go, but there's 1,000 trades. That there's a time to make a lot of money in the market, but not before you build a big account or you build up your trade size so you can take those trades and go, I can take my shot here and I understand why I'm taking my shot. Anyways, my trade plan for today, my assumption is we're in balance, right? If you need help, right? If you need help, I'm saying this to every single person in the room. Do not wait till you are mad to contact me. Okay? As a matter of fact, I'm going to ask a better question. If you are mad or upset, just don't contact me. You waited too long to reach out. Reach out on your second stop, not your fifth, if you're getting stopped like that, right? And then when I ask you, right, when you send it to me and you show me what you're getting stopped on, send me the picture, okay? And if you're getting upset that you're getting stopped on these inside bars, right, and you're not good enough to trade them, it's not an insult. Some people aren't. They just don't like the speed, right? Go to the edge and get the bar on the turn. That's the answer, guys. It's so simple. That is the answer. Make sure there's an algo on your bar. If you can't tell that the market's about to rip down 100 points, you don't have that skill set yet, right? Take your $200 and go home, or $300 or $150, whatever you're trading, okay? And go home, turn it off, and keep stacking it up, and then write down in detail. These are my notes from this morning. For this morning, right? The market is in balance. Don't get confused with straight up and straight down. We have not broken out, Simon. I write a letter to myself. You were looking for bars with squares on them, right? You were looking for bars with squares on them. Your goal in your cash account, I'm not going to say what the number is. When you hit that, cut your size by 75% and play if you want, but keep the money that you made for the day. The news does not matter. We are in balance, so the edges do matter, right? And pay attention to getting above and below the value areas from the hourly. Those are your indications that your trailers will run. That is my plan for today, right? That is my plan for today. I will check off on this plan, and then I have a plan every 3 trades, because I trade a lot sometimes. I will stop and go back and make sure I entered on the plan I had laid out. If I'm not entering on the plan I had laid out, I will stop for at least an hour, right? At least an hour. I'll have a conversation with my wife, right? I'll have a conversation with my wife, okay? And then I'll decide whether I can come back and trade or not, okay? You have a limited resource as a human being, okay? It's a hard game. It's not always an easy game, right? And we have switched from having a market that's moving in big wide rotations and going directionally to going sideways, which is why shorting is hard. And when you get tired, okay, when you get tired, it is hard to figure that out. Lastly, I heard from two people that made great decisions yesterday. One said they just didn't get enough sleep to trade, therefore they did not. Good job. It was a hard day to figure out yesterday. Okay. And the other person said, I just couldn't see my setups. I scalped for a few dollars and I quit. I didn't understand what the market was trying to do. You should understand what the market is trying to do if you're trading. If you don't, stop for the day until you do. Okay, so I'm telling you what the market's doing right now. ES is in balance. This is the definition of a balanced market. Wide-ranging balanced market. The edges, if you're looking for big turns, are where the big turns are coming from. You better have some discipline in figuring those out on those edges, okay? Because even though it looks like, oh, look, it breaks a low, comes back in, and just goes the other way, this is a lot of points. And what's easy to miss on this is a lot of these turns are taking overnight before they come, okay? Overnight before they come, and they're very wide ranging. That's an hourly chart. But we're in balance on the hourly, right? The nightmare of that scenario, by the way, is something like this, where we break a swing, trap, and then we just start hitting, and then finally we go, right? Meaning we keep hitting new lows along the way, or we'll keep hitting new highs, right? For me, it is very important that I get underneath the value area, right? And then lastly, I am running this algo today in my trade accounts, right? Um, I'm taking the risk. I'm going to run both sides of this. I'm just going to leave it alone with the trades on the edge. And I think it'll make it out okay, but I do not know. But that is not the correct answer for most of you, okay? And then tomorrow I'll have it attached to the hourly. We couldn't make the change on the hourly chart. Bill and I couldn't figure it out, and I haven't been able to speak to Sean about it. But I need to tie this algo, which is tied to the hourly, but I need to make the change to move it back to the fourth channel. And I'm running this on 3 accounts, but it's not what I want just yet. So I have to make the adjustment, therefore it hasn't been sent out. That's what I'm doing today, guys. Okay? Be nice to yourselves, right? Be nice to yourselves. Okay? Take your trade with a square. When you make money, be proud of what you have done, right? When you make money, be proud of what you have done. It is a hard game, okay? And my strongest suggestion I can make is to build your trade account, identify what your exceptional trades are. For me, my exceptional trades are going to come over that value area, right? And then work on developing what your trade is, along with building size on that trade so you can trade less and make more, okay? And then the last piece is that some people are having a hard time with, right? Some people are having a hard time with identifying their market, okay? So I'm going to give you an example. I have had Dan tell me, right? Even though the market was going up and down hundreds of points, he goes, this market is crap. Why? Because and I'm going to tell you why he says that, okay? Because it does something like this right here. Just imagine on a wider range, okay? It breaks a swing and then it never retraces. It just keeps going down, right? Instead of doing this, right? What Dan likes, I can show you what Dan likes, okay? Break a swing, 3 bars back, green bar up. Keep coming back. I believe he would say this is close enough still. It's good enough. Bar up, coming up, 3 bars back, bar up, 3 bars back, engulfing bar up, right? That, as far as I know, I'm not speaking for Dan, but to my understanding, that is Dan's favorite trade. He's good with that, right? If I told Dan to go long right here, he'd tell me to put it where the sun doesn't shine. He won't take that trade. I could tell him, you know, hey, God himself notified me that that's the entry bar. He's like, I don't care. Okay? He does not care. On the short, right, Dan's going to go break a swing, 3 bars up, engulfing bar short, right? And he's looking for that mostly to happen in the first 2 hours of the day, or he's done. Okay, so everyone in this room, and Dan, now I'll tell you what Dan doesn't have, right? Dan does not have a trade that says this trade is going to go for 50 points. I'm locked and loaded on my maximum size, right? I know I've got this trade. He does not have that. I do. He doesn't. He doesn't care. He doesn't need to care because he knows that he's trying to make $300 to $400 per account and move on, right? And move on, right? Everyone has to have their own strategy for what their best trade is, right? For me, right? If I get this trade right down here, right? If I clear a value area, I go supernova. If this bar right here had a square on it, that would be my fantasy trade. I'm going to hold on to it, break a value area, get above, right? Pull back. The only thing that could be better is if this happened up here instead of down here. It's the only thing I want different than that, right? That's a variation on what Dan does, but it's just supernova. But I want to hold that trade, right? Over here, I get frustrated because I want to break this swing, right? To get this short, I want it to break the swing, get underneath value, come right back up. Let's pretend that line is the value area and give me my algo down right there for the move down here. I don't always get it, right? But if you don't know what your trade is and what you're trying to accomplish, you're just going to bang your head. I do want to make clear, I suggest everyone who's turning this on and off, long and short, be on this trader that I posted last night, okay? Everyone. The longs are on one chart, the shorts are on the other chart. It is not connected to the 1 hour, okay? It is not connected to the 1 hour. And that is my 2 cents. We are in balance. Do not be surprised if they turn around and buy it and run right back to the other side of the range. Just don't, right? We just opened, I think, right? So now, for me, until I get more information, I got to get above here to be long. And so what's my adaptation there? Do I really want to go long up there? No, I want to see it break out of the range and then set up again, right? Because this is balance. I want my long set up somewhere down here. I would actually like it to extend down and set up lower. But what's likely to happen is we just came down to the 630 low. There's London low right over here. And we're probably just going to swing this range. Econ wise, I'll tell you real quick. Um, Hold on. Not this. Heck, what did I do with that? There it is. Okay, today we have consumer confidence at 9 a.m. We have Goolsby speaking and Waller and Cook all speaking right now. 3 Fed speakers all at one time. Okay. 9 o'clock. And then we have U.S. wholesale inventories. Trump speaks at 11:30. President of ECB speaks at 11:45. And that's all we have. Okay. Does anybody else have something else? Does anyone else have something else that you feel like I did not cover well enough, or you're unprepared for the day? Suppose it would help if I was looking at my Slack. Okay, stay calm. The market will come to us. We will make money. That's how it works. Okay, nothing's perfect, but that's how it works in general, right? So be nice to yourself is my strong suggestion. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. And you don't have to be perfect, more importantly. Okay? You do not have to be perfect. ES is the one showing early weakness, by the way. Sorry. Down towards the bottom of the range, right? You can see clearly that's where the value area is. And usually when you get early selling like this, they stuff them at some point. But let them do what they got to do, right? And you can see ES is actually the one with the weakness in it, interestingly enough. Stay on your process, okay? Okay, stay on your process, right? So this is pretty easy for me, right? So we're below the value area from over there, and then we get below the value area of the last bar and below the value of the last green bar. This is going to serve as resistance, right? This is going to serve as resistance, right? We got to get above whenever this prints, we got to get above this value area, right? And you can wait, and then when you look at the bigger picture, here's the bottom of the range, which we're pushing into in ES, right? And then just let them work it out, okay? If we trend down, that's great. If we trend up, that's great. Also be aware, right? If we're going up, we'll be above that 200. We haven't had an update in a long time, right? We're coming up on NVIDIA's numbers. I think that's tomorrow after the close, right? So just sit tight. Let the market do what it's got to do. That's my suggestion. You don't have to be perfect on this ever. Okay, but I can tell you that people are going to overpress at some point, and then they will be left scrambling. Okay, the short squeezes and bear markets, if that's what we're in, it's balanced, so it's hard for me to call it a bear market. But if we're in a down market, right, a lot of the underlying stocks have been getting smoked, right? The counter rallies back up, usually in the afternoon, can be pretty significant. Don't go, we're going to close at the low every day. Okay, do not, it would be a mistake. Okay, new low of the day. That is open drive higher, excuse me, open drive lower within range, right? We're coming down to where we had responsive buyers yesterday. White square down stuffed, coming up to test Globex low. There's first hour low, and there's yesterday's prior day low. ES hit prior day's low. Okay. So, and for all the down, keep in mind, NQ is down 10 points and positive now, and the S is down 8. Okay, so to me, that's not a down market, right? It's not a market that's getting killed. ES failed to check up on yesterday's low, so just keep that in mind. Excuse me, NQ failed to check up on yesterday's low. So new low ES, no new low NQ. And that is why, right? That is why I said, do not get bearish down there at those lows. We are in balance, right? So if you are dying to short this, right, you know the stop. There's your bar with the square on it. It's getting hidden by the first hour high, right? We're trapped back into Globex low. And now you get to have some kind of bias as to which way you think the market's going to trade in order to be able to trade it. It is fine to short that if you think it's short, right? I just see it being in the middle of the range and we're sweeping the range, right? And I think that's pretty hard to trade, right? So I am not, right? I'm just letting them do what they got to do in the first half hour. People really press there. Now they're getting unpressed the other way, right? Right back to the first hour and opening of the day and right back to the 200, right? Wait till they show you a pattern you can take advantage of where you're not guessing, right? Guessing sucks. Guessing sucks. See what this is doing so far. I don't have any, let's change this so it starts keeping track. I'm just going to let it run all day. This one's at 0, so that's fine. I'm just going to let it run all day and collect the data. Wonder why those didn't fire off, because I have a time restriction on it, 8:45. That's why. Yeah, that's fine. And like I said, I thought it was a mistake for people to get overly bearish when we're in balance. And now they're all the way back to the top and they're going to have to work out their overly bearish the other way, right? So, or overly bullishness, right? And that's up to them, no one else. See how we're not swinging both ways, but we're getting radically pushed violently in one direction and violently in the other? You don't want to trade that market, okay? Because it's unless you know exactly what you're doing size wise and direction wise, because it's giving you no quarter in between, right? It's giving you no quarter in between. It's slamming you all the way down, right? Look at ES, slam, slam, slam all the way down, slam, slam, slam all the way up. It looks nice, right? But it requires perfection. This is exactly where I would say Dan would go, nope. If I told Dan I was about to do this, I know for a fact I couldn't get him to buy this bar. I know I couldn't, right? And he's going to say, because I don't buy lows. That's all he's going to look at, right? I know for a fact I couldn't get him to buy it, right? And then I go, but look, you missed the whole thing. He's going to go, oh, well, I'll come back tomorrow. That's what he does, right? If it does that all day long, I'll just come back tomorrow. You should have the same commitment to whatever you're trading, right? You should have the same commitment to whatever you're trading, okay? So I'm waiting till it settles because I don't need it to go 100 points to make my money. I just need to do it in a reliable fashion, right? We're approaching 841. We've run the range just like I thought we might, right? We went a little bit further down than we did, and I'm totally relaxed here. I'm fine with it running up. I'm fine with it running down. None of it's my business. This is shorts being jammed, just FYI. This is shorts being jammed, is what just happened. Okay? Top of the range and looking like it wants to break out. And that's pretty much a straight rip for 200 points. 700 to 923. Congratulations, you just didn't get your ass kicked. Either way, you didn't have to guess, you didn't have to know, you just trade it properly. All you got to do is follow your process 100%, right? It's not short, it's not long, and wait. They are clearly ramrodding it straight up, right? You just didn't get your entry. That's all there is to it, unless you were going to take each square on the way down, right? And then you had to take the second square up. It's okay. Not a big deal. This is exactly where you'd go, right? If you're running this, don't turn on your shorts, right? If you are running this, don't turn on your shorts. It's going to take shorts as it comes along. If you are taking shorts, right, manage it out. If you are taking shorts, but there's absolutely no reason to take shorts in a rip like this. Zero reason to take shorts here. Okay? I'm letting it run so I can see where it executes, and that is it. Only reason I'm letting it run. Okay? Other than that, I got no commitment to it. Okay? By the way, this is where you're going to have a hard time getting longs on the third channel, right? You just are. They're just in rip mode. All those shorts are having to cover, right? They're going, oh my gosh, that is an open drive is open drive up after testing the low, right? On ES, failure to test the low on NQ. And they all said, oh, we need to buy some of these stocks. And that's what's going on here. Okay. And the patient trader will just wait till they see what they need to see to trade it. We have econ along with Fed speakers. We have econ in 15 minutes, right? New high of the day. Coming on up. There it is. Okay. So whatever it is, Fed's Waller. There's no reason to short this, guys. That is as impulsive move as it gets. You feel like finding the top? I'm fine with it. Be my guest. Not my cup of tea. Somewhere in here will be a decent roll down. I have no idea where. Okay. So see that trader assist? It will take every one of those. Does that make that a good trade? Nope. Just makes it a trade, right? Just makes it a trade. Okay. Manage off your risk. Make sure the setup is there, that the environment supports what you want to do. Okay. Make sure of that. See this thing right here? Because we were set up short. Bam, 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 which is why I have to make the adjustment on it. But this, even this, right? Even this, it didn't flip quick enough to stop the shorts. I have to figure out how to get that done, right? Which is fine. That's why I have it on manual. Okay. I cannot do anything about violent moves where 1 hour bars cover 300 points, 400 points. I don't have a good way of handling that. I haven't figured out a good way of handling that other than to say we're long. I should not be taking shorts above here, right? Yes, sir. I did. There's two people now with you, Ed. That middle channel trade is very good if you know you have momentum. Yeah, I agree. Over 24,880. You're playing long ball. Over 24,880. Blue square, blue dot up, middle of the channel, but you have all the momentum in your direction. So again, you got to decide if you want to take that trade or not, right? If you want that trade, you have the trader that takes it already. Just use the one I sent out yesterday. 6 minutes till econ. And just like that, someone must have said something. Wow, crazy. When these Fed speakers speak, just roll right down. Same thing with the ES. Illiquidification. All kinds of stuff coming across the tape. Stupidity. So, no idea. Just no idea, guys. So this is definitely not my market, right? When we're getting blasted by news and it's just a yo-yo up and down, right, over a wide range, I have no ability to tell which way the market wants to go, right? So it's exactly the kind of market I don't want to trade, right? It's the opposite of what I usually look for, right? Because I can't see any direction on this. I just see it blasting from one end of the range to the other, right? Which is fine. They're welcome to do it. There's no rule against it, right? There's no rule against that. I just don't understand it, and I don't want to get caught out in it, right? So when you look at it, right, you should look at this and go, hey, do I make money in this? When we sweep, you know, one end of the range, the other end of the range, back into the range off the edges like that, right? Is that a good trading market for you? You should know. Like I shouldn't be telling you, oh, you should be wanting to trade this. You should know, right? You should know if you look at the way this is trading, you go, yeah, I love this. I don't. I actually hate it, right? I go, oh no, this is the kind of money I get murdered in because someone says boo, right? Someone says boo, and all of a sudden we're to the other end of the range. What is that noise, right? What is that noise? Why would I want to invest in that or trade in that, my time or my efforts? I don't. Do you? Right? Think about that. Do you want to invest your time and efforts in a market that's doing this? Can you predict it reasonably? Right? I cannot predict 24,680 to 24,980 to 24,819 all in under 20 minutes. That's not my cup of tea. If it is yours, I'm all right with it. I can't trade it, right? Without any kind of assurances, right? It's just too fast for me. Why is it doing what it's doing, right? Who cares what someone said? It's just not a market that I can trade. I just have to accept that. U.S. consumer confidence looks like it came out early. That's why you just got that dump. Unless I'm behind on the time. Oh no, I'm just behind on the time. Sorry, it's 9 o'clock. My bad. Apologies. So, Brian, do you hear me? Everyone that's in the room, do you hear me? This is hard, right? I am talking to you guys who are like, oh, do I normally trade or do I not trade? This is hard by definition, right? Don't let it beat you up. Don't. It's moving freaking 100 miles an hour. Most of us aren't good enough to trade it. I'm not. I'm not good enough to trade this. That's too hard. Okay? It's just plain stupidity what the market's doing right now. No one knows what it wants to do, and they're just flapping it in a 300 point range, right? 300 point range, first hour high low, right? Let it settle. Don't sit there and click, 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 click. Look how fast it's moving. How do you plan? What's your plan for fixing that? As I don't have one. I just don't. If anything, flip over to a 32 tick and slow it down for yourself. There's the 32 tick bar if you need one. All you do is convert it to 32 ticks, right? All you have to do. And it moves a little slower, does not promise you against stops. Okay. Since I don't need, I'll put it over here on where I normally have this. ES with a blue square down. Again, I have ES up, and I am looking to trade the squares on the turn, right? No one's asked me to call it, but I am pointing it out as loudly as I can. ES 8 tick with the squares is very good. Okay. I'm going to keep saying it till everyone gets it. ES with the squares is really good, right? There's the numbers. Obviously, the short got beat up. The long's doing okay, right? There's a stop on the square trade. I don't know if that was at the third channel or not. We are in supernova, inside range, top of the range from the overnight, in overall balance, and with ripping markets, with very little, um, no one defending one end or the other of this thing. Okay. All you have to do is sit through this to make money. Pure insanity, guys. Pure insanity. No one knows which way they want to take this market. My strongest suggestion is either you scalp like hell or stay out. It's just stupidity, right? We're just throwing away contracts. Like they just don't know what they want to do. They keep trying to tank it, then they keep trying to rip it. Just that is a very hard thing to trade. I'm just telling you right now. Very, very hard thing to trade, right? I'm just letting you know. Do whatever you want, but it's very, very hard to trade this because you do not have any idea of where it's going to go except for the next two bars. Okay? There's no rhythm to it. No one is trying to get in, no one is trying to get out. We're just sweeping. That's all we're doing. So what I'm doing is I'm removing my hands away, right? I have this running on 5 accounts. This right here, right? That means I'm down 288 on some and up 646 on others. That's it. When I see what I am looking for, I will tell y'all. Right now, I'm just looking forward to make sure I do not get smashed. My primary objective, I'm looking for the bars on the turn, and that is it. This is non-directional market. Very wide-ranging, non-directional, illiquid, right? And it does not know what it wants to do. We are above the last hour's down value, therefore that sets our tilt to long. We are biased to long, right? But it is sweeping through that range, right? It can't get above, it can't get below. There's no one committed to the long side, there's no one committed to the short side. Let them wear themselves out. Then they'll tell me which way they want to take it. It might be this afternoon, right? But my job is not to get my ass kicked when it's freaking 50-foot waves. ES is still below Globex low, above Globex low, below Globex high, and below RTH high, right? So I'll just stay out of the middle. There's a vacuum there, and I do not want to get caught in it. And now we'll trade in a 5-point range. Woohoo! It's just not my market, guys. So whoever's speaking now or whatever they're saying, let them say it. It's fine. That is a blue square, blue dot on the turn. The algo will take that, right? So now you've got to decide if you're in that. Do you want to ride that all the way up or do you want to flatten that out, right? Do you want to ride it all the way up? Additionally, if you ran 12 micros, right, you are up about $700 right now, right? You can take your money from that, right? You go, okay, I'll take my payout, right? There's nothing wrong. There's no rule says you have to run it all day. None. Remember when I said last week? Look at the number of hours we're sideways here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours of sideways. Tends to make for balanced slash choppy trading, right? 10 hours. We have traded in the same range, okay? And IB high and IB low do you very little good at this point. They're 300 points apart. Again, if you focused on the bars with the squares on them, right? If you focused on the bars with the squares on them, look at them this morning. This is where I go to where I say you can make mistakes, right? And still come out okay, right? Even if you're taking them in the middle of the channel, right? Perfect? No, right? Perfect? No. I want them on the edge and I want them on the turn, but it will keep you out of trouble, right? That's what you want to do is be out of trouble. up towards the top of balance. Again, as of right now, given what time it is, I need to be below here to think short. Now ES is running. Expect NQ to follow suit. Fed's Cook is speaking now, just FYI, coming across the tape, if that matters to you. Like I said, not my cup of tea. Just pure stupidity. Guys, that's about as hard as it gets, just FYI. Just look at it. So again, I'd be on the edges and I'd have my stops in place and I'd have my emotions on check because they are not making this easy at all. We now have is it 300 total? Since the open, basically 700 to 25, 300-point range, 250-point range, and fast, right? Not just range, fast range. And the easiest thing to do if you're frustrated is walk away for an hour and come back and see if it's any better. See if it's balancing in a better range. See if it's going supernova, retrace. But this is just shorts and longs getting body slammed up and down is all it is. These are guys that have no edge whatsoever, right? They're either pushing for the high or pushing for the low, but you cannot convince me there's a trader in the world that is doing fantastic with this kind of deal who's trading the high amounts of leverage. You just can't do it because it's too hard, right? This is too hard. for them to survive. Okay? Including for me, right? Wide IBs are hard to trade. Here we go for the high. Just missed it. There's the high. Then you'll have the IB stat. So that's about as vicious. If you looked at that candle, you'd assume open drive higher. That's about the most vicious set of rotations I've seen in a long time. Pretty sure this is down now. 1738 against 1366. You wouldn't have taken all these shorts above that IB, but that doesn't matter. Trend up now. Go figure. No rotation, right? Getting squeezed out. Huge first hour bar. You have to be very careful when those first hour bars are like that, guys. Very, very careful with the longs now. That whole rip up right there is poorly auctioned. Okay. Does it suck? Yep. My only job was not to get my ass thoroughly beat in that. Just like yesterday. Does that suck too? Yep. Sure does. Fact of life. If you could have figured out that this thing was going to go to a high at the end of the hour, you're better than I am. And that's okay. It was just too hard. The algo did okay, but it's still down if you're running both of them simultaneously, which you should not be. You should be picking a side, obviously. Iran's deputy foreign minister. Iran is ready to take any steps necessary to reach a deal with the U.S. 9:27 a.m. Here's your short limit. Got to get under 874. There's just like zero reason to fight that. Here comes the vol crush. Watch out for volatility crush, guys. What should happen if this is legitimately a turn is the volatility in the rotation size should come in significantly, right? And we should get responsive buyers more quickly, right? On signal of some type, right? And it should just start grinding. If this is a head fake, they're just going to trap back in and roll it all the way back the other way. My guess is it's not that, but it could be that. So you got to think what happens with a vol crush. We have a harder time getting back to the very bottom of the channel. The expected 200-point ranges will come in, and we'll get responsive buyers and start grinding back up to the top side consistently. If I'm wrong, right, you're going to notice that we're going to get underneath 24,874, right, which, by the way, is quite a bit of room still to the downside and to the upside, right? And you should see shorts getting less extension and longs getting more extension and slowing down of pace. See how it's slowed down all of a sudden? You would expect volatility to get crushed if stability becomes more reliable in the market. I'll be right back, guys. Again, I'm not in a position to be taking shorts, right? Notice how we're not getting back to the third channel very quickly. That's a bit of a change in character, right? We were ripping back through those, like we couldn't get up to the top channels, right? Now we're having a hard time getting to the bottom channel. It's a big clue, right, as to what we are doing and how we are doing it, right? So this should be considered at this point trend up until we can at least break a swing, right? I know we're at the edge of balance, but you got to get underneath. You got to get underneath 24,874 to really get any kind of, unless you're picking a top of balance and saying we're going to break that balance, which I'm fine with. Just know that's what you're doing, right? Again, I'm fine with it. Just know that is what you are doing. ES is up 38, NQ is up 242, and not showing much of a willingness to go down at this point. And we're headed towards that half hour, top of the hour, then the half hour till London close. Consolidation up here. Remember, they're either going to look for a break of that consolidation up or down, right? Looking for now go up. I got nothing so far. I'm looking for a square up, just like this, to trade, or I will do nothing. I just want it on the turn, right? That is what I am looking for. I'd rather just sit here and do nothing than guess at anything, right? Not my style. I'm not going to do it. I cannot do anything about the PA. That is not my job to figure that part out, right? That is someone else's job. 10 o'clock. We'll see if they're interested in doing anything. If I don't get the algo, I don't care about the move, right? If I don't get the algo, I don't care about the move. I'll be back in a minute, guys. Guys, I have zero idea what's going on. Why we just dumped all of a sudden outside of London, obviously closed, but so what? It's not exactly the beginning or the end of the world, right? So no clear idea. Yes, then we're still up pretty nicely, so it's fine. Whatever. It's not been a very easy morning overall, which is fine too. I'm pretty relaxed about the whole thing. There's blue square stuffed, so we'll see if that means anything. Does anyone have any thoughts over today? Because I don't. I thought it was incredibly hard, right? I thought it was very, very hard, especially the first hour. You just keep your head down and you protect your capital. That's all. Actually, it's actually literally all you can do, right? There's no point in trying to make it any other way, right? You just keep your head down and you protect your capital. That's what you do in these situations, right? You don't try to force it. It's not meant to be easy. They don't have to make it easy, right? They just have to make it so that when on our good days we take advantage of them, and on our bad days, days like today where it's not easy, you just don't blow up an account or try to reset everything and make it all work at one shot. You just go, okay, they're making it hard, right? I'll trade it when they make it easy. You know when it's relatively easy. This was exceptionally hard, right? Look at that first hour candle, tells you almost everything you had to know about it, right? Then they hang it up, hang it up, hang it up, then finally give a big fat roll down, right? Right when it looked like it was stabilizing, there was some news that hit the tape of some sort. And but we're not going negative, we're holding positive. That's generally good for the market, right? That's generally good for the market. The holding positive thing is, okay? And so let the market work itself out is my suggestion, right? Let the market work itself out. I'm up $311 in that account that I started today. 311, right? And I am just grinding it through. I'm just grinding it through, right? I took some, everything I took was on an algo, right? They weren't all at ideal locations and they were little scalps, right? Like I said, most of the time, right? Most of the time, if you look, right, the when you're on the turn and you can get a square on it, right? So what I want for the algo is for it to be at an extreme, right? But as I said, I think markets are in overall control, right? Buyers have gotten in overall control, right? So I made a little bit of money here. I took this bar stuffed. I took this bar stuffed, not for much, right? I'm just adding up little pennies, right? I'm just adding up little pennies, right? Because that's all I can do on a day like today. It's not, I don't have a good read, right? Other than I know I don't want to short without the help of the value area, right? I don't want to short without the help of the value area because the value area makes everything in my life simply easier, right? It's not for everyone, but it does for me, okay? It makes everything easier. So, and I got nothing done with my cash account. because I didn't feel like putting on any significant risk because I couldn't handle the swings that were being presented in the first hour, right? And that's something that a lot of y'all need to work on is can you handle the rotation size, right? I can't. When the speed's that fast, that wide, that quick, and I have no clue what they're trying to accomplish, right? This morning I could have said they're going short and going long and had no freaking clue what the outcome of any of that would have been, right? The market is a little uncertain right now. Sometimes we'll gain certainty. Yes, we want to go down. Yes, we want to go up. And the setups will be pretty straightforward and easy. And that's when the algos tend to all line up for us, right? But when it's uncertain, right? Think about it from a purchasing manager's standpoint, right? Who's covering this morning most likely? Shorts are probably covering as opposed to new buying coming in on the market, right? Why? Because we don't know. There's more uncertainty right now going on than we've had in a long time, right? The thing with Iran, all that stuff. Will they respond positively to Netflix, not Netflix, Nvidia's numbers tomorrow night, right? But more importantly for us, just when I look at it, usually I can look and go, we're probably going higher, we're probably going lower. Today, I knew where we were probably going higher, but then I couldn't get everything to line up for me, right? But that I didn't get run over shorting for the next 200 points, almost, right? I didn't get run over shorting for the next 200 points, and I didn't get run over going long down there on the bottom. And the only way you could have caught those would have been getting long. At the low of the day, we had an algo that turned. And if you want to take it, I'm fine with it. Just accept the outcomes that you're going to take multiple stops on those guys, right? I think we had it right at the low. Maybe we didn't. Oh, I'm sorry. We had it over here, right? On the 50-60 retrace, right? So if you look at that series down, right? The square on the turn, excuse me, I lied, here and over here. So anyways, that's my 2 cents, guys. My wife just walked in, so I will talk to y'all in a minute. Sorry, forgot to adjust it. So anyways, does anyone have any questions? I thought it's been a hard 2 days, right? When it gets that wild and that violent, especially in the first hour. I don't have, we should have another bar. So technically we are triggered to shorts underneath that 25006. It's probably on the other chart. Okay. And then you will have to decide whether you want to follow that or not, right? And same thing on, but if you get on the other side of that curve, right, we can get continuation. So we'll just kind of go from there. I think these are still right where they were, pretty much. I want to disable the time spreads on this analysis studies. Settings. Change the time on these too. I don't know why they're so early. Into that's fine.